Somewhere in the woods, Takaya Nagami desperately runs away from the kobolds pursuing him. There's nothing he can do but call for help, begging his classmates to save him before he gets killed. Thankfully, the class president, Harukawa, quickly comes to his aid and annihilates the monsters chasing him with an electric shock. The guy's disappointed because he thought Takaya could hunt kobolds, but as it turns out, he's very weak. Embarrassed, Takaya apologizes to everyone. Of course, he wants to be helpful, but he just gets so scared around monsters. The president is having none of it, though. For him, Takaya's really useless. He then tells Takaya to hurry up so they can go back to the others. At their camp, Harukawa informs everyone that they've hunted a bunch of beasts that will keep them fed for a few more days. The students rejoice and praise their president for being reliable, knowing they can always count on him. Meanwhile, Takaya is ordered to process the wild boar-like meat they have. That's his only contribution to the team, so the others don't want him to slack off. Afterward, Harukawa asks everybody to stop what they're doing and listen up. It's been a month since the fall of their bus, but they still don't know where they are. They're certainly not in Japan, and it looks like they're not on Earth either. Except for the adults, all of the students narrowly survived, but their cell phones were disconnected and no help arrived. At this point, the president says they have to accept the fact that they've been transported to another world. Despite that, they've managed to survive for the past month. It's because each member of that class has been awakened and given special powers. Some of them have gained the skill to wield a warhammer with one hand, and others have gained the magic to heal wounds. In Harukawa's case, he can use electric shock magic. He notes that the abilities they have appears to be normal in that world. That said, one's worth in society is determined by their abilities. There's only one guy who's never developed any skills, and that's none other than Takaya. Harukawa stresses that they can't afford to waste food on someone who can only do below-average work of dismantling beasts. Actually, if they want to dismantle a demon, they can just go to a neighboring village and get it done at a reasonable price. What they can't accept is the money that is spent to feed Takaya is even more expensive. As a solution, they will do a modern and democratic vote in that barbaric alien world. They will decide whether to banish Takaya or not. Moments later, all the students finish voting. Then, with an overwhelming majority, Harukawa banishes Takaya. As everyone cheers, a guy named Suetsugu grabs Takaya and tells him that just because he's been banished doesn't mean he can run away without finishing what he's working on. Poor Takaya replies that he understands and asks Suetsugu not to hit him, ignoring his offensive remarks as he dismantles one monster they caught. The students are annoyed that Takaya can't hunt or use magic, and they consider his only job offshore worthy of a loser. But Takaya is not doing his task because he wants to. No, he just can't even do things that an ordinary person can naturally do. Sad to say, it's been like that since he was born. It's why he only gets to do what everyone refuses to do. While dismantling the monster, Takaya finds a magic stone. He explains to the other students that there's a certain chance they can collect one from the corpse of a demon beast. When he went to the village the other day, he saw it being traded. He adds that it's not worth much, but before he can finish his sentence, Suetsugu cuts him off and takes the magic stone from him. When Takaya argues that he earned it, Suetsugu grabs him by the neck and asks if he has any problem. Naturally, the guy struggles to answer, or perhaps he just chooses not to. Suetsugu then kicks Takaya and suggests to Harukawa they put a collar on him and make him do the chores until he dies. Yep, he thinks that will be more fun. But as a class leader, Harukawa says he needs to appear virtuous and merciful. So, as a small farewell, he'll allow Takaya to take his dismantling knives and some money before getting out of there. Now crying, Takaya tells him there are a lot of monsters and thieves out there. He's afraid he can't live on his own, asking what he's supposed to do after leaving their camp. Harukawa doesn't answer Takaya's question, but instead, he says he should understand that they're all stressed out and on the verge of exploding. His banishment is a sacrifice for them to let off some steam. Furthermore, Harukawa believes everyone will bond with Takaya disappearing. "I'm sure you'd be happy to contribute to the class," the president adds, making it clear to Takaya that it's nothing but a burden. With no other choice, Takaya leaves and just pays his classmates no mind as they ridicule him. To his surprise, one of the students, Mizukami, goes after him and shows him the magic stone he collected. She took it back from Suetsugu since it's Takaya's property, stating he could use it to make some extra money. Takaya is grateful that Mizukami is always kind to him. Then she tells him he can come back once things cool down. She's certain that things will go back to normal one day. As Mizukami heads back to their camp, Takaya bids her goodbye and thinks about how he'll never be able to return, because not everyone is as kind as her. Compared to their original world, the only thing that didn't change for Takaya is that there's still no place he belongs to. What will this poor guy do now? When Takaya reaches a village, he decides to spend all the money he has since he won't live long anyway. Wow, that's the spirit. For the first time in his life, he buys a bottle of alcohol and looks for a woman he can spend the night with. But then, he changes his mind and runs away, sitting somewhere quiet where he can continue sobbing and drinking. Eventually, Takaya feels sick and throws up. This is where he notices his dismantling knife. He wants to end his misery, so he wounds himself and waits for death to come. While lying on the cold ground, Takaya recalls how his classmates would refuse to let him join their group in school, telling him he would always be alone and he should just disappear. Maybe they'd finally get what they want. Or maybe not. Moments later, an unconscious Takaya is awakened by a woman who wants to know if he's okay. She informs her companions that the guy has regained consciousness, confusing Takaya since he's pretty sure he tried to off himself. What's even more puzzling for him is that his wound has already stopped bleeding. Upon learning that Takaya used the dismantling knife on his wrist, the strangers only laugh and tell him that tool won't kill anyone. Then one of the men invites him to come with them, making Takaya pause briefly and look at the people trying to help him. One by one, they introduce themselves. The lady is Marielle, a priest. The guy in the middle is Dyke, a knight. And their leader is Roar, an archer. A bit shy, Takaya also introduces himself before going with the three of them. As they walk, Takaya shares with Marielle and the others what happened to him. For Roar, it's reckless for a beginner party to camp in that area. He thinks it's a good thing that Takaya cut ties with his classmates. He also asks Takaya what kind of work he was doing there. Takaya shares that he did chores no one wanted to do, like handling the prey his classmates hunted. He admits he's not very talented, and he's only good for a few odd jobs. After hearing that, Roar wants to confirm if he's talking about fabrication. According to him, being a fabricator is one of the most respectable professions. Fabricators are, as the name suggests, in charge of turning beast corpses, plants, trees, flowers, and other vegetation into materials. For example, when fabricators hunt, they can process and refine their prey into edible meat. But there are plenty of people like that in the city, like the street vendors who are level 1 at best. To become a professional fabricator, one needs to have the quality of at least level 3 or 4. Takaya has no idea what Roar is talking about, but the guy just tells him not to play dumb. He knows that what he has in his bag is a magic stone, which should be unobtainable for a novice adventurer who doesn't even know how to use it. Takaya reveals it was taken from the heart of a dead boar, adding that he was able to collect quite a few of them, rather than the common stone that anyone can get their hands on. But that aside, he wants to have a talent for martial arts and magic. Roar and the others can't believe what they just heard. So the usher asks Takaya if he knows how precious magic stones are. He states that the one Takaya got is a rare red magic stone, wondering why he didn't know that kind of thing when he speaks the common tongue. Roar explains that a magic stone is a crystallization of the blood in the heart of a demon beast. It's a rare material used to make magic wands and magic potions. Actually, it takes at least a level 3 or higher processing skill to take that out. Diki didn't think that a novice adventurer like Takaya could have collected rare red magic stones, saying he should be at least level 3 or higher. He also remarks that as a dismantler, Takaya is blessed with more potential than their leader, who is a clumsy usher. He believes that if Takaya trains properly now and levels up his skills well, he'll be able to get skills that one would rarely get. He thinks that Takaya can even handle a dragon, and because of the magic stone he collected, Diki stresses that he has great potential. As Takaya wonders if he really has such potential, Meru asks if he has to go somewhere, or if he wants to come to their guild. She says they'll measure their abilities there, assuming he hasn't evaluated his talent yet. Aside from measuring his abilities, the ones that are hidden will be visualized too, and they'll be able to determine the proper profession for him. Most adventurers like Meru live happily by following their natural talents and developing their abilities sufficiently. She can see that Takaya doesn't realize his worth, so she tells the guy their guild is in need of talents like him. Remembering how his classmates told him he's not worth a damn, Takaya agrees to go with the trio and join their guild. Meru and the others are glad about his decision, and they promise that whatever happens, they're going to feed him something so good that he'll forget all the bad things that happened to him. "You're one of us now," they tell Takaya. When they reach the capital, Takaya can't help but be amazed. Now he feels like a fool for having been so enslaved in his class. When they reach the guild, Sea Rat, Rorui meets the receptionist, Mita, and asks where the boss is. Mita replies that the president is in his office before asking who the new guy is, learning he's a promising candidate for their guild. Rorui wants to introduce him to the guildmaster as soon as possible. With no time to waste, Rorui and the others take Takaya to the guildmaster's office, where they find him having a good time with a woman. Yikes. Before getting dressed, the man introduces himself to Takaya as Guildmaster Rudra. Afterward, they gave him the rare red magic stone. Rudra isn't sure if that's enough to say that Takaya has potential, so the elf he's with, Faria, says they'll have to examine it first. After a few minutes, the woman takes out a large piece of tree paper. She says it can fathom the hidden abilities that slumber in each and every one. She then instructs Takaya to place his fingers on the paper for them to see the tree inside of him. The woman adds that the tree paper tells them, in the form of a tree, what kind of potential a person has. It'll show whether they excel in combat or magic, and how far they can go. While touching the paper, Takaya cries as he thinks he doesn't have anything. But then, everyone can't believe their eyes when Takaya's tree of talent starts showing up. The truth is, the tree of talent is different for everyone. While some have great trees that reach heavens, others have some vines that cover the earth. Faria points out that Takaya has the root, which means he can master all kinds of production and processing systems in that world. In disbelief, Takaya tells everyone he's been expelled from his party because he was told he had no worth. To that, Faria replies that they will be weeping and kneeling before him soon. Also, she tells Takaya that they can't measure the worth of a person only from their appearance because it lies within. "Takaya passed," Faria declares, saying there's no way the world can ignore someone like him with so much potential. As the adventurers cheer, they express how lucky their guild is to have a man like him. Takaya has been living a miserable life, comparing himself to others, not putting any effort into anything, and not even trying before he started. But now that he finally has a goal, his real life will begin. He intends to live in this world as a fabricator, and he can't wait to see how far he can awaken his latent abilities. In the evening, the adventurers make a toast to the newest member of their guild. Then, Meryl reminds Takaya not to drink too much like the last time. Takaya apologizes and promises he won't do it again, but Meryl doesn't want him to worry about it. If it wasn't for that incident, they wouldn't be there with him. As the two continue talking, Mita approaches Takaya and says he can always ask her if he has any questions. This doesn't sit well with Meryl since it's her role to teach Takaya everything, and she doesn't like the receptionists clinging to him. When the ladies start arguing, Takaya asks Diki and Roar for help, but they just tell him to enjoy the popularity phase. And so our boy here does as he's told. In the morning, Takaya wakes up with a hangover. Up until now, he's just sneered at parties from afar. He never thought he'd have so much fun fooling around with his friends. Then, while he gathers himself, he is approached by a woman who claims she's heard about him from Rudra. That got her wondering what he was like, but now she knows he's got a cute face. When asked who she is, the woman says she'll tell Takaya once he's sobered up. Suddenly, Takaya falls hundreds of feet from the sky after a portal appears under him. There's nothing he can do but scream, but before he hits the ground, another portal appears, and he finds himself back inside the Adventurers Guild. As she looks at the shaking guy, the woman states he won't get a moment of free time just because he was born with a unique talent. If Takaya truly wants to become a fabricator in their guild, he must become her disciple. Again, Takaya asks the lady who she is, but before she can answer, Rudra and Faria show up. Rudra didn't expect that the sage would be there, so the woman explains she came to claim her apprentice. On the other hand, Faria greets the lady and calls her Ever, saying she looks good. After that, Ever hugs Takaya for she can't believe her comrades found such a gem. As if on cue, Meru arrives and sees what's going on. She demands to know what the sage is doing to Takaya, making him think it's their first time meeting too. Anyway, Takaya learns that Ever is the guild's counselor. She's one of the few people in the world with the title of Sage, a level 9 masterclass wizard. Rudra points out that he can't let his amazing talent go to waste, which is why Ever will help him develop it. Takaya isn't sure if that's a good idea, especially since he thought he'd start his life with everyone at the guild. Rudra then mentions hearing from Taig and the others that he was banished from his previous party, saying his situation is similar to what happened to him. He gave up halfway through and fled from his past, but he's sure Takaya will find a way to develop his talent. More importantly, Takaya can give the people who abandoned him a good whooping. Rudra doesn't want Takaya to regret things later, urging the young man to grow his talents under Ever's wings. He also asks Takaya not to forget them once he becomes famous, but of course we all know that's not going to happen. Now Takaya is more determined to trade, wanting to stand on his own and repay everyone for their support. At the same time, he wants his friends to promise that they'll form a party with him once he gets stronger. With that, Takaya bids them goodbye and leaves with Ever through a portal. Ever takes Takaya to her home, which she calls the Forest of the Sage. There's no turning back now, so she wants to know if Takaya is ready for his training. Replying that he is, Takaya stresses that he won't give up no matter how difficult the training is. Nice. That's the kind of attitude that Ever wants. But before anything else, she instructs the guy to pick any available room he likes. Once he gets inside, Takaya can't believe that he's getting his own room. He thinks it's more pleasant than he thought it would be, but he realizes he's wrong when he opens the room and finds demons inside. It's already occupied. Terrified, Takaya runs away and checks the other rooms, only to discover that there are demons inside them too. Then he finds a lady with no clothes on. Whenever sees what's happening, she cheerfully says she forgot to tell Takaya that her other apprentice is a girl. That said, he should have tried any lewd things. Oops, seems like Takaya is too late. Damn. With a shriek stinging from the girl's slap, Takaya tries to smile as Ever introduces him to the other apprentice, Tsubakibaru. The sage teases her for having a nice body despite being a kid, which naturally angers her even more. Master, say more and I'll kill you. But Ever only laughs, and she continues to make fun of Tsubakibaru. After that, the sage shares that she's from a small island nation far from the continent. Tsubakibaru's parents asked Ever to look after her, so she assists the sage in her studies. Now that they know each other, Takaya apologizes to Tsubakibaru for what happened earlier. He explains that the other rooms were cursed, and he didn't mean to barge into her bedroom like that. Thankfully, the other apprentice knows he meant no harm. Relieved, Takaya tells her he's looking forward to working with her, but she doesn't want him to get ahead of himself. Tsubakibaru makes it clear that she'll never trust the likes of Takaya. She doesn't care how much their master values him, insulting him by saying a weak man like him would have died a long time ago in her hometown. The sage then asks the two to shake hands and get along, but the girl vehemently refuses. Looking at Takaya with disgust, Tsubakibaru emphasizes that she doesn't want to touch a guy, not even for a second. Okay, so where will Takaya sleep? Well, Ever's room is really spacious. The sage will make sure they'll have fun every night. But of course, Takaya must work hard during the day, and he should start with cleaning the mansion. And thus, our boy's training kicks off. His days include cleaning, shopping, cooking, doing the laundry, and occasionally seeing Ever not wearing anything. Before Takaya knows it, a month has already passed without Ever giving him proper training. Understandably, he's starting to get worried. As Takaya cleans outside one day, Ever asks him to follow her, and says she's probably at level 4 now. She also asks Tsubakibaru if she's ready before giving Takaya his bag, which is full of food and medicine. Then, Ever informs her apprentices they have to team up, because they will have a simple survival challenge in the Forest of the Sage, and they can't come back until they complete their tasks. While Takaya is thrilled that he can finally do some full-fledged training, Tsubakibaru can't accept that she has to do it with a guy. After all, their levels are way too far apart. Ignoring the complaining girl, Ever states that there are 2 challenges. First, they must brew a double high potion and create a knife for Takaya. Both are level 5 items, but Takaya has no idea how to make a knife. To be honest, Ever knows that, which is why Tsubakibaru will come with them. Ever wants the girl to teach Takaya how to forge a blade. Confused, Tsubakibaru demands to know why she needs to teach Takaya her family's traditional blacksmithing skills. But again, the sage doesn't answer her question, and just tells Takaya that she'll be watching his training through her talisman, so he better do well. That's it? So long? Just like that, Ever leaves Takaya and Tsubakibaru, but Takaya tells the girl he can't fight. She replies that she'll kill him if he slows her down. Wonderful. It isn't long before Takaya attracts danger. Just like before, he simply runs when a monster chases him. Once Tsubakibaru kills the creature, she knows how useless her partner is. At the same time, she can't believe that Takaya has any special skills, asking what kind of fabrication he's achieved so far. Actually, I haven't made anything yet, the guy replies, but he quickly adds that for the past month, he's been reading a ton of books on herbs and ores. He's confident that he's drilled the knowledge into his head. Also, he's found out that the forest is full of poisonous plants, so he promises to make an antidote for Tsubaki Baru. Geez, Takaya, don't jinx her. Anyway, Takaya talks about lentil moss, which can be used not only to cure poisoning, but also for paralysis and sleep. But as expected, Tsubaki Baru answers that she doesn't need his help. Even babies in her homeland use lentil moss, and now she can't believe that she'll be teaching a stranger about her most cherished smithing technique. In the end, she just accepts that there's nothing she can do about it. As the sun sets, she decides where they'll camp. Later, Tsubaki Baru writes a letter to inform Ever that they've arrived safely at the cave and orders a bird to deliver it. Meanwhile, Takaya cooks food and tries to give the girl some, but she refuses because she has her own rations. Despite that, Takaya insists that she try what he prepared, and when she does, she admits it's delicious. While they're eating, Takaya and Tsubaki Baru see a wolf not far from them. The girl instructs Takaya to run back to the mansion immediately, and in just a matter of seconds, the creature comes at her. Although she's able to block its attack, she still finds herself crashing against the cave wall. She then kicks the monster away and gets up as if nothing happened, making Takaya realize she's also a being beyond humanity. As Takaya stares at Tsubaki Baru, the wolf notices him and lunges at him. His partner can't believe that he didn't run when she told her to, but to their surprise, the monster changes into a girl. With the lady in his arms, Takaya knows that she's burning up and mentions she read in a book that the symptoms is caused by the poisoning called Glenbenny. It's tricky, but he knows there are plenty of antidote options. Needless to say, Tsubaki Baru can't believe that Takaya is going to help the girl. Before the guy can even answer, she stresses that this is the law of nature. The weak are weeded out, and the strong survive. She answers the wolf accidentally ingested poison and was defeated by nature. She says they can't allow themselves to interfere with the rules of the world. I was once discarded because of the survival of the fittest, Takaya replies without looking at her, but thanks to everyone at Sea Rat, he's been given a second chance. Yes, Takaya is thankful to Tsubaki Baru too. On that note, he wants to give the wolf girl that chance. Exasperated, Tsubaki Baru tells him to do what he wants and not to follow her. Afterward, Takaya carries the girl and leaves the cave to look for the ingredients he needs for the medicine. Then, he suddenly loses his balance, but Tsubaki Baru appears out of nowhere and supports him. As he thanks the girl, she tells him to call her Akane, and that she's going to find the ingredients for the potion. Despite that, she doesn't want Takaya to get the wrong idea, because she still thinks he's a failure of a man. She's just reconsidered a bit, that's all. Later, Akane watches Takaya as he works on the double high potion made from lentil moss with added detoxification effects. That means they're already done with the first challenge. However, Takaya doesn't think the girl will be able to swallow the potion in her condition. So he pours some potion into his mouth and transfers it to the girls, clarifying to Akane that what he's doing is a medical procedure. In the morning, Akane wakes up and finds the wolf girl kissing Takaya and referring to him as their master. Actually, she's doing more than that. That's definitely not some medical procedure. Disgusted, Akane slaps the sleeping guy to wake him up. In his defense, he had no idea what the wolf girl was doing to him because he was asleep. Then, Takaya asks her why she called him master. According to the wolf girl, she's always been alone, lonely, hungry, and cold. But then, that changed when her master Takaya saved her. When Takaya says he's not her master and that she's free, the girl insists she wants to be with him. She doesn't want to be alone anymore. Because of this, Akane tells Takaya he'll now be responsible for the lady. Seeing that she really wants to stay with him, Takaya thinks of a name for the wolf girl and ends up calling her Meek. Once Meek recovers completely, Akane declares that Takaya's double high potion passes the test. He shouldn't celebrate early though, because crafting a level 5 knife is going to be a lot trickier. It would take days to gather the required amount of iron ore. As Takaya checks his book to see where they can find it, Meek reveals she knows its smell and volunteers to find it for him. She immediately leaves without even waiting for Takaya's answer, making him worry that it might be considered cheating. But Akane clarifies that the mission is not to collect but to craft, so it's okay for Meek to look for the iron ore. Besides, it's obvious that the girl wants to return the favor in her own way. When Meek returns, she quickly leads the two to where she found what her master needs. Takaya and Akane are shocked that she's discovered a sky stone, a kind of precious material they can't handle. As Takaya praises Meek for doing a great job, Akane calls him to show him the sea of iron ore. Thanks to Meek, he can practice blacksmithing to the max. Wasting no time, Takaya starts working on the level 5 knife. While guiding the guy, Akane realizes why their master paired her with him. At first, she thought he was just some weak perv, but she's witnessed him overcome the first trial with a power she didn't have. And now, he's found a sky stone with the help of a new friend. It's become clear to Akane that Takaya's power is kindness, and she's learned that from him. Upon finishing the knife, Takaya thanks Meek for finding the iron ore in the sky stone, which he took as a souvenir. He also expresses his gratitude to Akane, for she guided him despite initially having second thoughts. Ever then shows up through a portal and congratulates Takaya for everything he's accomplished. But more importantly, she's there to inform Takaya that he's needed at the guild. "It's your first job. You've been nominated," she says, adding that Akane and Meek, the daughter of the wolf god, will be coming too. After a long time, Takaya is finally back in Bay Road City. First, he gets some new clothes, which Akane thinks look good with the blade he made, Shirogane. At the guild, Takaya greets his friends and makes small talk. When Meryl sees him, she's surprised that he came back with 2 girls and ensues they're his, lovers. But Takaya is quick to explain that it's just a misunderstanding and asks her to stay close because he's not good at talking to new people. Relieved, Meryl asks him to do his best for his first job. As they head to Roger's office, Ever orders Meek to protect Takaya, for their customers look like they'd cause trouble. Takaya then approaches them and freezes when they turn to face him, learning from Faria they're demons from the demon realm. But they're not just any demon, they're high-level domination class demons called Enchantress. For thousands of years, humans and demons have been at war over and over again, and even now, the tension is very high. Faria tells Takaya it's possible the war will resume depending on his attitude. No pressure. Nervous, Takaya asks the demons if they're the ones who nominated him. One of the demons confirms this and removes her mask before introducing herself as Mumuru. Next, she introduces her caretaker, Letty, who's as beautiful as her. Kneeling before Takaya, Mumuru begs him to create a magic spear for her. Ever finds it interesting that a demon would bow to a human. But Mumuru just ignores her remark and implores Takaya to help her because she doesn't want to die. She shares that she was informed she'd be appointed as one of the 4 heavenly kings of the demon realm. With their family's trident of the dark, she'd be a princess who'd represent their family and rule the demon realm with the demon lord. Letty was curious why she wouldn't take care of her spear, but Mumuru only argued that being one of the 4 heavenly kings was a hassle. She stressed that she hated politics, wanting to just stop the war and love each other. Letty was worried about what Mumuru's mother would say, and that their family's most prized possession was in the girl's dirty room. Mumuru wasn't even bothered because the spear was in her closet, only to discover it was broken when she took it out. She wondered if she could ask their court fabricator to make another one before her mother found out what happened. But Letty said he quit because he was tired of being used by selfish aristocrats. As if that wasn't enough, they could have just taken the spear to a processing shop in the demon realm, since Mumuru's mother would discover that too. With only 1 month left, their only option was to look for a fabricator in the human world. Letty could only hope they'd be able to find someone who could master their demon fabricators, which was why they started looking for a level 9 fabricator who could make a magic spear. They then bumped into Dyke, who claimed there was a level 9 fabricator of their guild while hitting on Letty. Because of that, Pariah has to make sure Dyke will reflect on what he did. If it isn't obvious yet, this job is really risky, but since Takaya has fully demonstrated his talent through his training, Ever believes he's more than qualified for it. This job will either make Takaya a renowned person or an enemy of the demon world, but still, it's his decision if he will accept it or not. To convince Takaya, Letty says they'll reward him with money or rare metals, adding that they will give them whatever they ask. Furthermore, if he accepts their request right then and there, Letty promises to give her everything as contract payment. When Takaya asks why she'd go to such great lengths for Mumuru, she replies that she'd sacrifice herself any time for the sake of the princess's future. I understand. I'll take care of that magic spear. With that, Mumuru hugs and thanks Takaya, who admits he's not a level 9 fabricator yet, but still, he knows how to fight with the only cards he's been dealt. Using the blacksmithing techniques that Akane taught him, Takaya will use the Skystone Meek found as a soldier to fix the broken magic spear by wielding it. Instead of making a new spear from scratch, he'll repair the broken spear with a piece of adhesive. He's confident that with wielding, they can even make ships that can carry humans to space. Rudra then shows Takaya their newly renovated basement, which he can use as his workshop. Faria adds upon Rudra's ring and sells some of her clothes just to get it done. And the more she learns about Takaya's character, the more she realizes she made the right decision. Takaya just remains quiet, but he appreciates what his friends have done for him. For the first time in that world, he has a place to call home, so he'll make sure to live up to everyone's expectations. Later, Takaya asks Akane to prepare the furnace so he can melt the Sky Stone, and instructs Meek to stand guard for him to be able to concentrate. When he takes the spear, he observes that some kind of force was used to break it. He also asks Akane for some lentil moss he can combine with the Sky Stone, and although the lady is hesitant since it might ruin the stone, she just trusts him and fetches what he needs. Once he has all the materials needed, Takaya works tirelessly. He thinks about lentil moss is useless in forging, but he knows that there are other ways to use it. Sure enough, Takaya is able to fix the broken magic spear. He asks Mamoru to channel her magic into it, and thankfully it works. She comments it's not quite back to normal, but it's enough to keep her mother's eyes off of it for a while. After Mamoru thanks Takaya, Evers suddenly puts a chain around her neck and Laddie's. Since they said they were willing to pay whatever Takaya and the others wanted, Evers only requests for them to become the guy's slaves. As Takaya protests, the sage reminds him that they're doing business, which is why it's only natural to push the limits. He successfully completed his high-risk first job, and for that, he must take a suitable reward. As expected, Takaya refuses, but Mamoru asks him to accept it. After all, she'll be doing that to protect her family's name. Evers wants him to understand that it's only a matter of time before he gets everything he wants. But if Takaya has such power, he'll use it to save people from being put in chains. He intends to help people who have lost their chance to be happy, and he wants to take the hands of those who are suffering alone. I want to abolish this system of survival of the fittest. Laughing boisterously, Evers reveals she was just kidding Takaya. She then breaks Mamoru and Laddie's chains, telling them to take the magic spear and go back home. But of course, they shouldn't forget to return to the guild with the money. Afterward, Mamoru thanks everyone at the guild and gets ready to leave. On the other hand, Laddie will stay behind to work as Takaya's maid. It's a part of their deal, remember? She also kisses Takaya in front of everyone, and when Mayriel sees them, the color drains from her face. Again, the fabricator explains it's just a misunderstanding. How the hell can someone misunderstand that? Meanwhile, everyone in the capital talks about Takaya's high double potion that's being sold at Sea Rat. It's got a reputation for purity, and the people are aware that the one who made it is a newbie fabricator with a genius-like creation skill. Unknown to Takaya, news of his success has reached the ears of the person who hates him the most, the class president Harukawa. Later, Takaya's double high potion sounds like crazy in the guild. Thanks to it, Guildmaster Rudra says their poor guild is blooming again. Despite that, the elf vice president Faria doesn't want him to put too much pressure on Takaya. She says he's been relentlessly working since he started and never agrees with her. Once the women leave, Rudra asks Letty how Takaya's doing. Letty says Takaya seems to have forgotten how to eat and sleep because he's so absorbed in his work. In other words, the fabricator's overdoing it. The guild receptionist, Mira, wonders if she should drag him out of his workshop, but she sees the perfect candidate who can make Takaya take a break. So who's that? It's none other than Meru, who's just arrived with Roar and Dyke. She asks the priest to drag Takaya out of his workshop and hang out with him, also wanting the two guys to help her. Without hesitation, Meru heads to the basement with her friends to check on an exhausted Takaya, who says he's just finishing up the last potion. As she approaches Takaya, Meru asks him if he's forgetting something. He promised her before that he'd join their party, making the guy wonder if she's inviting him on a quest. Although Takaya appreciates the invitation, he's hesitant to leave the workshop because he still has another job to do. But the trio has no intention of letting him spend another minute in that place, so they tell him they have a quest from the guildmaster. After a few minutes, Takaya leaves Sea Rat with the three. Meru was the first one to discover Takaya, but before she knew it, he was already surrounded by a lot of girls. It's the reason why she wants to know him better, and upon hearing Meru say that, Roar suddenly remembers he and Dyke need to buy some stuff. Nice. Then he suggests Takaya and Meru have a cup of tea and wait for them. Dike has no idea what he's talking about, but before he can protest, Roar grabs him by the hand and walks away. Oh, and he gives Meru and Takaya a thumbs up too. Understandably, Takaya can't believe that the two guys left them just like that. To his surprise, Meru only takes his hand and leads him to where she wants to go. Unknown to Meru, Ever is watching them with some of the ladies in the Adventurers Guild through the talisman Takaya is wearing. The sage reasons that it's her duty as a master to keep an eye on her apprentice's first aid. After exploring the city, doing different kinds of activities, and buying whatever food they want, Takaya and Meru finally take a break. Takaya tells Meru he wants to see the ocean, and the priest doesn't even think about it, and just agrees. Back at the guild, the ladies are still watching the two, but Rudra catches them and instructs them to get back to work. On their way to see the ocean, Meru notes that Takaya has been straining himself lately. She makes it clear Takaya can always talk to her if he has any problems, but the guy doesn't answer. Instead, he asks Meru why she became a priest. According to Meru, she's always admired the priestesses who help the poor or the injured. Takaya thinks she's amazing, and he can't help but compare himself to her. He states that he, on the other hand, was supported by so many nice people. He points out that he merely received a path of being a fabricator, but Meru tells him he's overthinking things. Moments later, Takaya and Meru reach the lower districts. Meru says the situation in this place is worse than where they lived, because not everyone is blessed with skills. She shares that she's always wanted to become a priest, but in reality, she can't help everyone who is suffering. She thinks she was only able to save Takaya by a mere fluke, believing she's weak. Naturally, Takaya argues that that's not true. He stresses that Meru has a remarkable gift for healing, mentioning she treated his wrist when he tried to end his life. He shares that the lady will save a lot of people in the future. Takaya then recalls how, until a few months ago, he couldn't go against his old party leader and was forced to do trashy jobs. But now, every time he looks at the scar on his wrist, he's reminded of his past. Am I a fabricator, or am I still a slave? I don't know who I am. A frustrated Takaya tells Meru he's nothing like her, who carved out her own fate. To that, the priest calmly replies that Takaya doesn't know anything about her, so she intends to reveal her true skills. But their conversation is interrupted by a snapping sound that they immediately realize is caused by electricity. A few feet away from the two, Arukawa shows up with his lackeys, using electric shock magic and greeting Takaya as if they're close friends. Takaya quickly warns Meru to be careful, and it dawns on the priest that the guy who suddenly appeared is the person who banished her friend. Unfortunately, before our duo can even do anything, Arukawa incapacitates Meru with electricity. Then he attacks Takaya too, before carrying him and getting away from there. Later on, Takaya wakes up and finds himself in chains. He soon realizes he's at his classmate's base, which is now filled with treasure. Beside him, Arukawa says it's the treasure their class collected. Takaya assumes they're all stolen, but he still wants to hear it from the class president. When he asks Arukawa if they stole everything around them, Takaya replies that he's well-educated and his family is rich. He was promised success in life, but all of those things have been taken from him in that other world. Grabbing Takaya by the hair, he emphasizes that he's going to get the success he's supposed to have, and well, he knows exactly where he should start. That aside, Arukawa tells Takaya he's heard of his level 9 talents. He once banished them for being a burden to their class, but he admits it's a different story if Takaya has such power. To put it simply, he wants Takaya to return to their group and contribute. Too bad for him because Takaya has no desire to do anything for them. He proudly says he's now a fabricator for the Sea Rat Guild, adding that he's certain his master is watching everything through the talisman he's wearing. He's confident that people will be coming to help him soon, but the class president wants him to open his eyes. Arukawa tells Takaya he's like them, so he'll never be a member of that world. Your only family is your classmates, Arukawa says, leaving Takaya speechless. Joining the conversation, Suetsugu orders Takaya to double-cross the sea rat for them, to take everything they've got. Whoa, look at that. Glow up. Suetsugu has heard rumors that the guild has more hidden rare skill users, making the fabricator wonder if he found out about the sage's mansion and the magic spear. Arukawa's goal is to make everyone at the Sea Rat their slaves, and wants Takaya to operate from the inside. By doing that, they'll be able to take the adventurers by surprise. And besides, He points out to Takaya that he'll be the most popular boy in their class if they succeed. Takaya doesn't understand why class popularity is so important to Arukawa. One can be considered popular if they're a good student, a good athlete, and have a good family background. He used to believe that he was worthless because he was the opposite of those three things. But now, he knows better. Now, he knows that those things were just lies. The fabricator states that the moment he stepped away from his old classmates, he found his true value and the place where he belonged. At the same time, he stresses that Arukawa, who he thought was the pinnacle, was nothing but a small pebble. I won't stumble anymore. Arukawa argues that the sea rat is only after Takaya's talent, but the fabricator retorts that the guild doesn't put a price on people. In addition, he doesn't think Arukawa will ever understand that, especially since he treats people like objects. Infuriated, Arukawa yanks Takaya's chains and takes his blade before cutting off his right hand. It did that to see if Takaya's friends would really come to his aid. After all, the guy said his master could see everything through his talisman. As Takaya tries to endure the excruciating pain, Arukawa asks what he thinks will happen if the guild finds out that his future as a fabricator has vanished. He can only wonder if the adventurers would really come to save Takaya, who is unable to believe that he's fallen so far. At this point, it becomes clear to Takaya that there's no saving the class president. Meanwhile, Arukawa and the other students plan to attack anyone from the guild once they arrive. He asks Takaya what the adventurers' weaknesses are, also wanting to know what kind of rare skills they're hiding. If Takaya answers his questions, he promises to take care of him as their pet, since they were classmates. He knows the guy would struggle to survive with just one hand. Takaya just remains quiet, but while looking at his old group, he thinks about how he lived with the idea that his life was worthless. Meryl was the first person who helped him out, even though she didn't know him. He was just a nobody lying on the side of the road. So now, he wants to return the favor. Takaya exclaims, pissing Suetsugu off. Suetsugu declares negotiations are over and prepares to kill Takaya, but he gets distracted by a howling of a wolf. Everyone then turns to where the sound is coming from, and Takaya is glad to see that Meryl and Meek, who's in her wolf form, came for him. Needless to say, Harukawa can't believe that Takaya's friends actually found him. Some of his classmates are afraid and sure that they won't win against the wolf, but the class president advises them to stay calm. He says their enemies are simply trying to intimidate them with abnormal things, but the monster they're facing is nothing more than a big dog. As the students think of what they must do, Meryl instructs Meek to deal with them while she saves Takaya. Again, Harukawa asks his classmates to calm down and assures them there's nothing to worry about. He's confident they'd win because they outnumber those from the Sea Rant, and as usual, his classmates believe him. The moment some students charge at the wolf, Harukawa whispers to one guy that they can't win in close combat. So while their classmates are trying to get the beast's attention, the class president wants him to burn it to death with area of effect magic. Of course, the guy tries to protest that their classmates will get hit, and Harukawa only looks at him. Approaching Takaya, Meryl realizes that he needs to be healed right away, but before she can even start, Suetsugu walks up to them and mocks Takaya because it was just a girl who came to his rescue. Not that it matters, though. He has no intention of holding back just because Meryl is a woman. If you do, I might just end up killing you. Meryl coldly tells Suetsugu before getting up and preparing for her fight. Surprised, Suetsugu asks Meryl if she's just going to let Takaya die. Also, he finds it hilarious that her specialty is killing, even though she's dressed as a priest. Just like what she told Takaya, Meryl shares with Suetsugu how she's always wanted to become a priest who would help the poor and injured. However, all God gave her was a talent to hurt people. Meryl vows she'll use all the skills she has to protect Takaya, and hearing her say that makes the fabricator realize that she tried to become a priest by overcoming the obstacles in her life. All of a sudden, Suetsugu leaps and comes at Meryl with his axe. Sadly for him, the priest easily avoids his weapon and even his kick, before also kicking him in the back. The big guy is confused since he's sure he hit Meryl, but she doesn't give him time to think and charges at him. This time, it's Suetsugu's turn to block Meryl's attack. Then, he repeatedly attempts to land a blow on her, but she's just too quick for him. Eventually, Suetsugu gets even more puzzled. He has no idea why his attacks aren't hitting Meryl. What's more, his visualization skill shows him that a woman's martial arts skills are level 4 at best, so how in the world does he keep missing? Enraged, Suetsugu tries to lift his axe to attack Meryl once more, only to be kicked in the face by the priest. As Meryl continues to teach Suetsugu a lesson, Diki shows up beside Takaya. He reveals that although Meryl has mediocre talent, she has one rare skill. It's the power to fast-forward time just a little bit. So in other words, Seirat's hidden rare skill wielder is Meryl. After a few minutes of receiving punches and kicks from the priest, Suetsugu finally loses and collapses. "You're only strong when you're up against someone weaker than you," Meryl says, disgusted by the guy she just defeated. On the other hand, Meek the Wolf faces the other students. Then Arukawa orders his classmates to fire at her using their cannon, and they successfully hit her. The only question is, did they kill the wolf? Nope. If anything, the students only made Meek even angrier. As a result, she charges at those nearest her and gets rid of them like they're some insects. This is where Arukawa's classmates start considering abandoning their base. They tell the class president that their class doesn't stand a chance of winning, but the guy reminds them they still have some level 6 vanguards left. He's sure all of them can bring the wolf down, saying they can burn it to death with magic if they can stop it even for a moment. One guy wants to clarify if he wants to sacrifice their tanks, so Arukawa grabs him by the shirt and sets it simple logic. He even calls all the tanks, including the guy, idiots who only have musclehead skills, because for him, they're just a bunch of lowlifes. That remark makes everyone stop in their tracks. They stare at Arukawa in disbelief and soon drop their weapons, recalling how their president said their class was supposed to be the strongest. Unable to stop his classmates from leaving him, Arukawa begins doubting himself. He's supposed to be the chosen one, so why is this happening? Ever then approaches and says no one chose him. She also tells the guy that no one loves him, and that the other students only followed him because of his skills. In their case, they chose Takaya of their own volition, and they will do anything for him. One sneak defeats the students trying to kill her. She joins Mayriel beside an injured Takaya. Although he's getting weaker by the minute, he assures Mayriel that he has kept the secrets of Seirat safe. He didn't say a word about Ever's mansion and Mamoru's spear either, for it's the least he could do to pay back what Mayriel and the others did for him. Unfortunately, he can't be a fabricator anymore without his aunt. All he can do now is apologize to everyone who helped him. Ever asks why he went so far just to keep the guild's secret, to which Takaya replies it's because they accepted a piece of trash like him as their ally. But Diki disagrees with Takaya, stressing it's their hope and no one can take that future away from them. Then he kneels beside the fabricator and uses his magic to reattach his aunt to his arm. Afterward, Mayriel reveals that it was Diki who took care of Takaya back then. He may not look like it, but he's a great healer. Surprised, Takaya realizes that the guild's extremely rare skills are Mayriel's ability to fast-forward time and Diki's ability to rewind it. Diki admits he's always wanted to be a macho, manly knight, but he knows that no matter how hard one trains, their level will reach a gap. Instead, he was given the power of healing. There was a time when he thought he didn't need a talent that wasn't manly, and during that period, Seirat accepted him as a knight. He and Mayriel didn't get blessed talents they longed for, and eventually, they lost the place where they belonged. Diki is aware that for people with a blessed talent like Harukawa, they're nothing but mere dirt. Unlike him, Takaya has a tremendous gift, and that is understanding people's pain. As Takaya gets up, Mayriel tells him he's the hope of Seirat. She's sure that his creation skill has the power to change the world. That said, she doesn't want Takaya to shoulder all the burden and reminds him that when things get hard, he can rely on people. Then, Mayriel hugs Takaya and says they all help with each other's weaknesses. That's what Seirat is about. When Takaya returns to the guild with his friends, he's no longer worried. Also, there's no more doubt in his heart that he's a fabricator. Inside Seirat, Rudra asks Takaya if he's sure about his decision to help his old classmates. The guildmaster can't believe that they're sheltering those bandits, especially since they hurt Takaya. But once again, Takaya shows how kind he is. As a fabricator, he's learned that anything can possibly be repaired. He assumes it's hard for the students to leave their homeland so suddenly, but he believes they can make a fresh start. As expected, Meek disagrees with Takaya's idea of keeping his old classmates in the guild. She's itching to rip their heads off, especially Harukawa, but Ever thinks that's too generous. She suggests slowly draining the energy from their bones, sighing. Rudra wonders when the guild started overflowing with such crazy women. While checking their list of students, Roar discovers that there's 7 people short. Takaya confirms it, and notices that Shiori Mizukami isn't there, the nice girl who gave him back his rare magic stone that Suetsugu stole. Knowing Shiori, Takaya is certain that she's doing well in this world. Elsewhere, 6 girls try to fight back as bandits take them away. They find it hard to believe that their friends set them up from the beginning, and they can't even use their skills. Who's that traitor's friend, you ask? Drumroll, please. It's Shiori Mizukami. She's the reason why the ladies couldn't fight with their skills. And now, as she looks at her tree paper showing a big tree, she notes that she only needs the root. And well, she plans to steal Takaya's root with their void power. You guys didn't see that coming, did you? One morning, Takaya wakes up and wonders if he had just a dream about the, women in his life. But when he looks around, he sees Ever, Meek, and Letty in his room, wearing nothing but their undergarments. And as usual, Mayriel shows up just in time to see the ladies surrounding Takaya. Shocked and hurt, Mayriel runs away without even waiting for the fabricator's explanation. Once she's gone, Letty talks to Takaya about how he ate 3 servings of food last night. Takaya wants to explain to Mayriel that it's all just a misunderstanding, but Letty teases him that Mamoru will be angry if she finds out that they all spent the night together. When Ever and Letty sit beside Takaya, the guy panics and covers himself up before walking to the door. He knows that if this situation happens again, Mayriel might get mad at him. To Takaya's surprise, Mamoru is standing outside his room. He asks what happened to her bruised face. So the lady hugs him and begs him to come with her to the demon realm. Then she explains what happened. Upon returning to the demon realm, Mamoru started her work as one of the 4 heavenly kings. She was happy that her repaired spear didn't seem suspicious to anyone, and for that, she couldn't thank Takaya enough. But from time to time, she'd get bothered that Letty stayed behind with the fabricator. Anyway, when Mamoru went to bed one evening, her mother entered her room and asked if she could really put off her work and sleep in peace. Then, she demanded to see the spear, saying Mamoru succeeded in fooling everyone except for her. In addition, she could see the light of the abominable holy sword leaking faintly from her spear. Taken aback, Mamoru pretended she didn't know what her mother was talking about. If you say you broke and had it repaired with human technology, you'd be killed. With that, Mamoru's mother punched her in the face and ordered her to bring the guy who repaired the spear to the demon realm. Back in the present, everyone can see that Takaya is considering going to the demon realm with Mamoru. She's Takaya's important customer number 1, and the guy knows that the guild will greatly benefit from his connection to her. Besides, he already considers Mamoru his friend, so he agrees to come with her to her world. After that, Takaya informs Roger about his plan. The guildmaster thinks he's bringing trouble to the guild, but he respects the guy's decision. However, he won't let Takaya go to the demon realm on his own, and that's because of his rare level 9 skill. So he'll have some C-Rat members escort him. Just to be clear, we're only talking about Takaya's skill. He's not a level 9 fabricator yet. Interactions between the enchanted tribe and humans are utmost exceptions, and must be done in secret. They can't just barge in as a group. Therefore, Mayriel, Roar, and Diki will stay at the guild this time. He'll ask Akane to take Landry's place as their receptionist, which is why she must overcome her shyness. Then, Roger wants Ever and Meek to accompany Takaya, but the sage apologizes and tells them she can't come with him because of the convening of the Council of 6 Sages. She'll also be taking Meek with her. When asked about the other sages, Ever explains that the 6 sages refer to 6 level 9 mages. Long ago, a battle between demons and humans took place in that world. In that war, those 6 mages formed the vanguard of the humans. Ever doesn't really want to go, but there's magic infused in the letter she received that will go off after a certain time. No matter what she does, she'll be sent flying to the meeting when the timer runs out. As he listens to his master, Takaya admires the letter and becomes curious if he can make something like that too. At the same time, Takaya wonders why Ever needs an escort and who will come with him. With no other choice, Faria volunteers to accompany Takaya and says she'll be his bodyguard. Thanks to the look of surprise on the fabricator's face, Faria gets annoyed and assumes that Takaya sees him as a little girl. The guy doesn't answer, but he thinks about what kind of fighting style the vice president has. It isn't long before Takaya, Mumuru, Letty, and Faria leave through a portal. Then, Takaya finds himself and the others falling into the demon realm, where the elf gives him a piece of cloth to cover his nose and mouth. She shares that while demons are resistant to miasma, the miasma in the demon realm is poisonous to humans. Instead of becoming worried, Takaya thinks of the things he can create using the miasma. It's funny because every time he looks at something, he gets an idea. Takaya just loves being a fabricator. Mumuru lets Takaya know that she'll fly him to her mother's castle, only to be told by Letty to hide. Their teleportation was not successful, and to make things worse, they've entered the land of the Zanma demon general. So, Mumuru quickly hides with Takaya and Faria, while Letty remains out there in the open. When one demon patrolling with his buddies notices and insults Letty, the lady claps back by saying she didn't expect the likes of him to be able to use human language. Naturally, the demon retorts he only adapted to that primitive means of communication. Takaya is glad that their enemies haven't noticed them yet, but the miasma causes him to sneeze. Because of that, another demon finds where they're hiding. With no time to waste, Faria instructs Takaya and Mumuru to go ahead while she helps Letty deal with the demons. The caretaker unleashes dark lightning to show the demons she's not someone to be messed with, while on the other hand, Faria warns their enemies that she's what their ancestors once called a nightmare. In Mumuru's territory, the princess assures Takaya that they're finally safe. Sure enough, all the demons there greet Mumuru with enthusiasm and show her the potatoes they've harvested. Then, one of them notices Takaya and asks Mumuru why a human is there. So she explains that the guy is their dear guest and asks the demons not to tell anyone about it. Moments later, Takaya notices a sick girl and alerts Mumuru about her. The princess quickly approaches the little girl and starts using her magic to help her, revealing to Takaya that most bodies have the ability to purify the miasma of the demon world. Sad to say, children with weak constitutions can't completely expel the miasma. As one of the 4 heavenly kings, Mumuru's primary role is to protect the children, but right now, she can only do some first aid for the girl. Wanting to help, Takaya asks Mumuru if he can have some of their potatoes. He thinks no one should suffer because of their natural constitution, so he'll use the potatoes to make a dust mask to fight miasma. But how will that even work? Well, the purified potato powder will act as a filter to block the miasma. Upon finishing what he's doing, Takaya explains to Mumuru what the masks are for. Mumuru wants to save a few more that will last for a couple of weeks, but after that, she doesn't know what to do anymore. Now, she can only wish there was someone in the demon realm with production processing skills. As the two continue talking, maids from the castle named Remy and Yami arrive. They have orders from Mumuru's mother to bring Takaya and her daughter to the castle as soon as possible. But before they leave, the fabricator first explains what he's working on. The maids find the idea interesting, so they use their skills to help improve the mask's quality. When the little girl tries one mask on, she exclaims it's not painful at all. Also, she says she's normally in discomfort, even inside their house. Looking at the kid, Takaya becomes confident that the children won't have to live in fear of the miasma anymore. To show her gratitude, the girl kisses Takaya on the cheek. An irritated Mumuru mutters that the competition just went up, but when Takaya asks what she just said, she replies it was nothing. Geez, Mumuru, really? As they reach the castle of Mumuru's mother, Takaya can't help but admire it. He notes that it looks surprisingly cozy while the princess asks the maids if her mother is in a good mood. To her disappointment, Remy and Yami reply that she isn't. They then head inside, and as Mumuru goes upstairs, the fabricator cheers for her. Takaya tells Mumuru to believe in herself. He says that no matter how scary her mother may be, he's sure she can sense her sincerity. But as he continues to say nice things about Mumuru, the princess suddenly crashes into the wall. It's because Mumuru's mother threw her trident at her, and she isn't happy that they're late. "Human, I'm glad you're here," says Mumuru's mother, who introduces herself as Azasha, the former general of the succubi. Takaya quickly checks on Mumuru, and he's relieved to see that she's still alive. As it turns out, the blade of Azasha's spear didn't hit her. She's biting it. With tears in his eyes, the fabricator helps Mumuru get down. Acting as if she didn't almost just kill her daughter, Azasha assumes Takaya is wondering why she handed over the title of the 4 heavenly kings to Mumuru early. She explains it's because the girl is more talented than her, for she draws the power of the magic spear called Trident of Darkness to the maximum. Azasha made Mumuru empress of the succubi, so she was convinced her daughter would eventually save the succubi tribe. But she ruined her precious spear, sneaked around, and bowed down to a human. As if that wasn't enough, Mumuru deceived her. Pissed, Azasha kicks her daughter so hard that she crashes into the wall again. Takaya has no idea that succubi punish their children that way, so he calls Azasha out and stresses she'll put Mumuru's life in danger if she hits her again. That was Takaya's first mistake when he stepped inside the castle. Walking toward the guy, Azasha grabs him by the neck and starts that he has no idea how important that spear is to the succubi. Aside from that, she emphasizes that lying to one's mother is a grave sin.